Rain lashed against the metal roof of the National Security Agency headquarters in Monrovia that night. Inside the dimly lit building, a group of men huddled in silence. They were not ordinary thieves. They were Liberia's top intelligence operatives, trained to protect the nation from enemies, not become them. Yet within hours, they would execute one of the most shocking betrayals in Liberian history, robbing a foreign businessman at gunpoint, inside the very walls of the agency meant to uphold the law. The air was thick with tension and the smell of cheap cigarettes. Agent Morris said quietly, "He's in room 101. He doesn't know a thing." The others nodded. Outside, a black Toyota Prado idled, engine running. Inside the building, a South African businessman named Melvin Thomas waited nervously for what he believed was a standard security debriefing. He had come to Liberia for a mining deal worth millions of dollars. The NSA had called him in for routine questioning. He didn't know the men waiting for him weren't investigators. They were predators. When the door opened, the light flickered. 4 armed men entered. "Mr. Thomas," one said coldly, "we need to check your bags." The businessman hesitated. "Is there a problem?" The answer came not in words, but in a gun barrel pressed against his chest. They forced him to the ground, stripped his luggage open, and found stacks of US dollars, cash he had brought for the mining project. Witnesses later said the sound of the beating echoed down the hall. By morning, the story was impossible to contain. The victim, battered and humiliated, had gone public. He accused Liberia's own NSA of robbing him of more than $500,000. At first, few believed it. The idea that national security officers, elite agents of the state, had turned into armed robbers was almost too absurd. But in Liberia, where corruption was a silent shadow behind every government wall, the truth had sharp teeth. The incident tore open the country's fragile trust in its institutions. Liberia's NSA wasn't just any agency. It was the personal security arm of the president, reporting directly to the highest office. The revelation that its agents had carried out an armed robbery shocked even hardened journalists. International headlines read, "Liberian NSA accused of heist." Inside the agency, panic spread. Director Famba Sirleaf, the president's stepson, denied any knowledge of the crime. This was a rogue operation, he claimed. But as investigators dug deeper, that explanation began to crumble. Documents leaked to the press showed that the NSA had not only detained the victim illegally, but had also seized his property without a warrant. Even more damning, the agents responsible were never arrested, protected by the very system they betrayed. One former NSA officer, speaking anonymously, described what happened inside after the robbery. "They said it was classified. They told us to stay quiet, that the man was involved in illegal transactions. But everyone knew that was a lie. They just wanted the money." Monrovia's streets buzzed with rumors. Some said the money had vanished into offshore accounts. Others whispered that it was used to fund secret political operations. The truth, as with most scandals of power, was buried under layers of silence and fear. The businessman's ordeal grew darker when he was detained again, this time accused of money laundering. It was a tactic, a way to flip the story, to make the victim look like the criminal. For days he was held without charge, questioned in rooms where the only light came from a single bulb swinging overhead. He was told to keep quiet, to drop the complaint. "You're lucky to still be alive," one agent warned. But Thomas refused to stay silent. His story reached the United Nations and international media, forcing the Liberian government to respond. Under mounting pressure, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf ordered an investigation. Yet even then, the inquiry was tightly controlled. Reports surfaced that witnesses were intimidated, files went missing, and senior officials interfered. Behind the scenes, Liberia's fragile democracy trembled. This wasn't just about a robbery. It was about the soul of a nation still haunted by civil war, trying to rebuild trust after years of bloodshed and corruption. The NSA scandal felt like a relapse into the old darkness. When investigators finally pieced together the timeline, it revealed a chilling operation. The agents had tracked Thomas for days before the robbery, monitoring his movements, phone calls, and hotel stays. They knew exactly when he'd be most vulnerable. The planning was military-grade, methodical, precise, cold. It was the kind of operation designed not by street criminals, but by intelligence professionals. In the aftermath, the victim fled Liberia, fearing for his life. From abroad, he continued to press his case, accusing the government of complicity and demanding justice. Meanwhile, the accused agents walked free. One even received a promotion. Human rights groups condemned the government's silence. The U.S. State Department noted the scandal in its human rights report, citing serious allegations of corruption and abuse within Liberia's National Security Agency. The damage to the nation's image was severe. Foreign investors began to pull out. Trust evaporated overnight. Inside the NSA headquarters, morale collapsed. Some officers resigned quietly. Others stayed, fearful of retaliation. It wasn't about one robbery, a whistleblower later said. It was about a culture where power meant protection. They could do anything, and nothing would happen. As months passed, new revelations surfaced. Confidential sources revealed that the robbery had been approved by a senior NSA official who claimed the businessman's money was part of an illegal gold scheme. But no evidence ever surfaced to support that claim. Instead, bank records traced portions of the stolen cash to accounts linked to intelligence officers. The case became a symbol of everything broken in Liberia's post-war government. It wasn't the amount stolen that stunned people. It was who stole it. The scandal reached the legislature, where opposition members demanded resignations and criminal charges. How can the same agency meant to defend our sovereignty be the one violating it? One senator asked during a televised session. But justice never truly came. The official investigation ended quietly, with no clear accountability. The government called it an internal matter, and the story was buried under bureaucracy and silence. Yet the people remembered. Years later, when reporters revisited the case, they found that some of the same officers involved in the robbery had risen through the ranks. The businessman, still living abroad, described his experience as a kidnapping by the state. He said he still wakes up hearing the voices of those agents demanding his money, the sound of their boots on the concrete floor. Liberia had faced warlords, coups, and corruption before, but the NSA robbery was something different. It was betrayal from within, a reminder that even peace can hide rot. The scandal wasn't about greed alone. It was about the slow corrosion of trust, the idea that power could twist duty into crime. Inside the intelligence community, the scandal became a ghost story told in whispers, how a single night turned patriots into thieves, and how no one dared speak their names again. The NSA building still stands in Monrovia, its gray concrete walls weathered by rain and time. To outsiders, it looks like any other government complex. But to those who know its story, every corridor carries an echo, the footsteps of men who crossed the line between protector and predator. In a country that fought to rebuild its identity, the question remains unanswered. If those sworn to guard the nation can betray it, who protects the people from the protectors? Final line. In Liberia's halls of power, the silence of justice still speaks louder than the cries of the betrayed.